So, first guys, how are you?
Very well. Yeah, good. Had a good night's sleep on the bus overnight.
I had a nice long sleep.
Yeah, you did actually.
Yeah.
Got up very late today.
Yeah.
Is that something far and in between while touring, and then that you get a good night's sleep?
Oh, it's very important.
Yeah.
Essential, actually. I think it's essential in my general life. And actually, I try to get at least 8 hours. And if I don't get 8 hours, my day's not going to be that great.
I was watching a video of a sort of, it's actually kind of like a philosophy school that regularly publish these quite interesting videos, and it was saying how important sleep still is to people and people don't realise, and like how, you know, when babies start screaming, it's usually because either they're hungry or they're tired.
Okay.
And it's like, you know, that doesn't stop. Like, we don't scream when we're adults, but we feel the same way. So actually, if you feel like you're having a bad day or whatever, whilst that's not to say that you might not have some issues, problems, or whatever that you're upset about, but actually, best thing to do is probably have a little bite to eat and a lie down. And yeah, I would agree with that.
So as touring musicians, that's a good tip as well.
Definitely.
Good food, good sleep.
Yeah, food and sleep. Yeah, it's really important.
Yeah.
Well, you have a new album out, or relatively new. It's been a year. I want to look back quickly at that album. Do you remember kind of, because it was 3 years in between albums, do you remember what mindset you were going into the album with?
I think one of the best things about taking that amount of time in between the records, and certainly quite a large chunk of time off before we started writing for the fourth album, Friends. I think it's great when you start writing an album again that you're almost quite bored and you're really ready to be creative again. So I'd say for me personally, when we started writing, I felt excited and I felt very ready to be working on new material, and it always is. It's always a mixture of excitement and slight terror, because you're really excited for what you might produce and what you might be able to write and make with your songs, but at the same time, I always feel like, perhaps we'll never be able to write a song as good as that one again, or we'll never be able to write an album as good as that again, and that always kind of lurks in the back of your head. But yeah, it's just, I don't know, I was kind of excited about it, and I think as we get older and as we make more music, we listen to so much more music as well, and there's so much more to draw inspiration from, I think, as you get older. So I think. I think that had a part to play as well. There's a lot more that we wanted to represent on this album, and a lot of different directions we wanted to take it in, and I imagine that's probably going to be even more the case on our next record, which hopefully we'll start writing again in the next couple of months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because am I right in saying you didn't have a label while creating the studio?
Right.
So the freedom that you kind of have, was that an important element to?
Yeah, it was slightly, but I think we never really let a record label kind of get in the way of the writing. There were a couple of times where in the past, I think especially on our second record, because the first one had done so well, we did have our label at the time a little bit constantly talking about singles and everything like that. But we never really let it get to us. But we're in a very different time now for music and the way music connects with people, where things like radio is just not as important as it used to be, in terms of that's not the be all and end all of having success. With streaming and social media and just going and touring has been more important than ever. So it really just boils down to writing and recording good music, whether that's sort of 8-minute songs like The War on Drugs put out a month ago or whatever, or whether it's songs that don't even have a chorus. It doesn't really matter, as long as it's good and it will connect with people. So I think there's more freedom now for any artist than there is a while back, who want to have some commercial success, because you don't need to be doing that within the realm of 3.5 minute pop songs.
Right.
Like, that's not necessarily what happens these days.
So why do you think this changed? Is it because of the internet and that you have audiences that can kind of pick and choose what they want?
A little bit, but I also think it's just you know, things do get boring, things do get tiring, and if you look at a lot of music in the 70s or 80s that was in the chart, they were quite different as well. There's certain, I mean, even, you know, Beatles songs or Paul Simon, or there's lots of classic songwriters that have had huge hits with very unconventional songs. I mean, an obvious example would be like Bohemian Rhapsody or something like that, one of the most famous songs ever, which is an absolute prog kind of opus. But we've had quite a few years recently, I don't know, of that real 3.5 minute verse chorus, quick middle eight chorus, you know, and even people that aren't musicians and they don't think about songs in terms of structure like that, subconsciously, when everything on the radio, they're sort of realizing subconsciously follows the same pattern, a boredom sets in. And suddenly when you put something new out, whether it's a piece of really interesting R&B music or a rock song or a piece of dance music that doesn't follow those rules, if you get it right, it can really start a fire, because people just suddenly go, oh, well, you know, this has really caught me off guard, but in a good way. So I think we're approaching a time now where people are bored and ready to be surprised by something different.
Well, that's interesting then, because you say you're going to start writing in a couple of months. So what is the mindset now then? What?
I don't know. I think.
Have you noticed anything about where you want to go?
I kind of think like, Joe, I really don't know. And that's probably the most exciting thing about it. We're just going to kind of take it as it comes and really, I guess, just keep an open mind when we start writing and see what comes out. Yeah, I don't know whether it's good to think too much about things specifically before you start, because otherwise you kind of, I don't think it's ever a good idea to just kind of set rules for yourself, even on a subconscious level, because then you find yourself getting quite distressed when you stop following them.
Right.
Yeah.
Feeling guilty.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned that the kind of pressure that builds up while starting again on a new album. So how do you get over it? Was there a moment on Friends that you thought, okay, now we're heading in the right direction?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's worth when you get a few songs under your belt and you feel like, oh, these are good songs. Like these wouldn't be out of place on any White Lies record.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we're okay with this. So it's, you know, when you've got a moment like that, you're like, okay, we've got some album-worthy songs. We know we can do it.
About 20 minutes worth of music, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Like a little sort of tube train journey. About 20 minutes, maybe 3-4 songs. 4 songs. If you can listen to 4 songs and really like them all, then you're like, okay, the rest is going to be on the up from here, basically.
So do you remember which song kind of had that turning point?
I think it was Morning in LA.
Okay.
I think we wrote that quite early on, and I think when you're writing and when you're demoing in a way that's usually quite crude, it's the simple songs that really stand out when you get them right. And Morning in LA is a very, very simple song, and actually the demo was quite different of how it turned out in terms of sort of delivery, but the song was there and it felt immediately like the melodies are pretty good, the chorus is great, the chords are good. Okay, this is a good song, and it's really simple. The more complicated ones like Swing and Is My Love Enough, I think they're reliant a bit more on production, so they really need to be recorded really well before you can truly appreciate if they've worked or not. Not to say we didn't like them in demo version, but I think it's the simple songs that come through best in the early stages.
And then, at what point do lyrics and kind of the themes of the album, when do they arise? Is it only in hindsight that you look back at some of the lyrics and think, oh?
No, well, yeah, actually, I think it is. I think it is only in hindsight that you look back, because writing a record always occurs in a sort of period of time, and no doubt there will be some things that your mind is preoccupied or focused with at that time, whether it's things that are very, very close and domestic and happening right to you, or whether it's things that are happening in the greater world, happening to your friends, or something like that. Mm-hmm. If you write an album over 4 or 5 months, the chances are the lyrics will be preoccupied in some way with what was happening at that moment. But yeah, often it's not until a bit later where you look back and you go, oh yeah, I was really, that was really on my mind at that time, or that was happening to a friend of mine, and I must have been thinking about that a lot. Lyrics, there's a balance between how much sort of weight you should put on them in the moment, and also just with a lot of practice, after writing a lot of lyrics, you learn to just follow your gut, and if something feels okay, it's sometimes the best thing to do is just to leave it and then judge it a bit later on, and you can always change it while you're recording.
So in that sense, is it more a thing of mood, capturing a certain mood, or
Yeah, I guess a mood. I'm not really sure. It's a bit mysterious, songwriting, because one day, we work in the same place. We work in Harry's flat, and we have a pretty regimented routine in that, I arrive at about the same time. We make a coffee, maybe have a piece of toast, and start working. And it's one day you sit down after doing all those things and write Morning in LA immediately, and the next day you do exactly the same thing and sit down and write a heap of crap. So you can't put too much pressure on yourself, because you have to realize that there is a lot of just chance and mood and whatever involved. The most important thing is just to sit down and write something and try to be very unprecious about it. It really doesn't matter if it's rubbish, because there is no songwriter in the world that every time they sit down to write a song writes a great song. It just doesn't happen. And actually, I think we still meet other bands or artists that tell us, oh yeah, I wrote 100 songs for this album and had to choose 10. I mean, that's insane. I mean, I think the most we've ever written has been for friends, and it was only about 18 or something like that. So actually our strike rate is pretty good. But some people write hundreds.
But so, and this is very interesting, and then going back to something you said, Harry, but in a sense then, are you always chasing kind of the success of previous songs or previous albums?
No, I don't think we're chasing the success of those songs. But I think that we do put up the songs that we're writing against those and think, are these pieces of music as good as those pieces of music? And obviously a lot of the time they're completely different, but yeah, I do. You hold yourself to a standard, don't you? And I think and I also think we do often think, like, is this? It's not. We don't necessarily think, is this a song that White Lies fans will like, but is this a White Lies song? Like, is this something that we're comfortable with, that sits with what we feel White Lies should be right now, kind of thing? And it sounds like a very sort of abstract and vague thing to say, but I think you just know, know whether it is or it isn't in the moment, And then if it isn't, then you try and figure out why not. And yeah, and actually often in the studio, we have certain things that we feel that White Lies does, and I think that they will probably feature on every one of our records. Just little, just like the way of playing a guitar, or certain things you do on the drums, or whatever else, or the bass. It's like we have certain formulas that we follow. But
right.
But yeah, no, but we do hold up the songs against other songs for sure. Yeah.
Finally, then, because one thing is, and it kind of ties in with what you just said, but it kind of ties in with just one more. That's perfect. So it kind of ties in with what you just said, but that you recorded at Ferry studio, and then obviously distinctive synth sounds. And so, how do you kind of keep evolving, but also remain or keep those elements that make what White Lies is?
I think in some ways the best thing to do is, and that we do, I think, quite a lot. We're not a band that like buys loads of new gear all the time, or who's constantly downloading new synthesizers and software and plugins and things like that. The thing is, most of the stuff that we have and most of the stuff that other artists have, you use 5% of the capability, if that. So usually what we'll do is, actually when Harry and I are working, one of us will say, oh, you know that plugin or that synthesizer or something that we've been using for ages, I just found this great new way of using it, or a great new sound on it, or something like that. So I think we're quite responsible in that way, that we don't just sort of freak out and think we need to like try 100 new different things and buy all this new stuff that's going to make us sound really different. Like, even like Harry was saying, just the way that you play a guitar. I mean, we could, if we wanted to, perhaps, we said that, you know, if Harry said, oh, I'm going to try on a song playing all the guitar parts with my fingers, or something like that, or it would be a completely different sound to anything we've done before. And there's things I could do with, you know, with the bass or with the drums, and so I think a bit of restriction like that is good. There is far too much equipment available in the world. You really don't need, you know, 10, 20 different synthesizers. And actually, even though we did have the use of Brian's analog synthesizers in the studio, we really only had 3 set up pretty much out of his 30 or whatever. You know, you choose the best ones, and to be fair, that was slightly under the guidance of the people we were working with, who know how to use them really well. But you know, all of that kind of equipment can do so much. So yeah, I always find it a bit strange when when you go and see live bands as well, and like guitarists have got pedal boards the size of you know, the sites of new housing complexes, and you just sort of think, I don't know if you need all that. Like,
I want to do that in the future.
Harry's going to do that in the future. You know. Harry's going to have like 4 tiers.
Yeah, 4 tiers.
Like Mars Volta pedal board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
What was the original question then? Because I was going to say something. It was
just about
how you evolve without losing.
Okay, yeah. I think often on the last record, I think the way that we did that, the way they approached that, is when you first start writing, you often use sounds and you use instruments in a very different way when you're literally first starting on a composition or a song, just to get some inspiration and to try something new with your songwriting. And often a lot of that kind of gets filtered out through the process, and it ends up sounding much more like you and like the band. But I think a trick to evolving is just to leave a few of those little bits in, which is something we did quite a lot on the last record. And I think that that's where a lot of the point of difference on that album came from, and I think that's a great way to evolve. Yeah.
Guys, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.